Welcome to my podcast. Today I'm going to talk about another thing that's been used if you are working in the medical field or other discipline. So it's basically about reflection. So the most common model that's been used mostly in medicine, it's called Gibbs reflective cycle. And it's a famous model for reflection, which comprises of mostly 6 stages. So basically start with exploring an experience, which could be a standalone situation or a repeated situation that you face. And it just involves that situation need to be described and how it made you feel. And then you need to evaluate that experience, whether it was good or a bad one. And then you need to analyze it to make sense of the situation. And then come up to a conclusion where you have learned something and what could you make differently next time. And then finally, the action plan for which to deal with a similar situation in the future, or as a general concept of change that you could find appropriate. So I'll try to pass through each stage just to hint what's needed to be said or reflected upon, and this will guide you through how you can reflect effectively in any situation that you encounter, even in your daily life. So starting off with the description, you just need to think about what had happened actually, and, and where and when did it happen. So if there is a time frame or a day, who was there when it happened? And what did you and other people do? In that situation? What was the outcome? And why you were there? And what did you want to happen? So just try to reflect on those kind of questions. Just thinking back in time, in any situation that you faced, ask yourself, when it happened, where did it happen, whom were there, what happened exactly, how did you and other people do in regard to that situation, why were you there, and what was the outcome, and what did you want to happen. And moving then to the feeling, I just need to reflect about the thoughts you had at that particular experience and how it impacted your situation. So just, it's like feeling that situation. When you were in that situation, how would you feel? What were you feeling before and after the situation? So it needs like before and during the situation and after it. What did you think other people were feeling about the situation? So if there were other people around or in the same situation, what would they do or feel about that particular situation? And then what do you think, what were you thinking about that situation? And then what do you think about the situation now? So it's elapsed already, and now when you think back in time, how did you feel? So just it's different stages of feeling basically about that particular situation that you faced and how that situation made you feel at that particular time. And now, once it has been done and finished, how would you think? So maybe you are more clearer about the situation now, no stress, nothing. What would you feel differently from that moment of time? Moving on to the next stage, which is called evaluation. So you need to think about that experience, what was good and what was bad about that experience. So it's just two faces of the coin. So it has a good and bad evaluation for that experience. So you need to reflect what went well, what went bad, what did you, yourself, and people contribute to that situation. So whether it was a positive one or a negative experience. And then you need to analyze it. You need to analyze why did things go well, why did it happen that good, or if it was a bad one, why it was that bad, and why it didn't go well. And what sense do you make from that situation? what knowledge, if it was yours or others, for instance, to make out of that situation. And then you need to conclude, so what did you learn from that situation, from that experience that you've been through? What did you learn? Is there any learning thing for you, learning curve? How could this have been made more positive for everyone or for yourself when you've been involved? What skills do you need to develop in order to handle such situation in a better manner or in the best way in the future if it happened again or if it's recurring? And what else could you do? So in that concept, you can conclude, and then you need to think about the action plan in order to improve. So it's when you talk about action plan. So if you say, oh, if I did this thing, the same thing again, what would I do differently in order to have a different result? Of course, you can't repeat the same thing and expect something different. And how will you develop the required skill that you need? Imagine that position or that experience needed some sort of skills. So how would you scale those skills and upgrade them and upscale them in order to achieve a different outcome? And how can you make sure that you act differently next time so you're not going to repeat yourself the same thing? So just need that. You need to reflect basically on each stage and analyze it differently in order to avoid the same result or the same outcome every single time, and how this can be moved forward in order to be a positive learning curve for yourself or within the team or the situation you've been through or even in your personal life. So something like this in order to see a different outcome. I hope by that I had covered the main 6 stages of Gibbs reflective cycle, and I see you in another podcast. Thank you.